know we are feeling good today. What's up, everybody? This is the Early Edge, and we are live as we count down to 7 early games today. 4 at 4 o'clock, and then Steelers and the Dolphins. A really good matchup, I think, for Sunday Night Football. We do it every single week. For those of you who are new to the brand and you're just finding us, give us a follow. Pound that like button for me. Also, turn on your notifications because we do multiple shows every single day. But this show, it's all about the NFL, and that's it. Let's bring in the stars of the show because you know I bring my absolute very best on a Sunday morning. So let's start with the man who was with me on day freaking one. We call him the Maestro, Larry Hartstein. 2 times in one day. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. Great to be with you again, Coach. Great to see you, Sia and Alex. Let's do it.
All right. Now, he is the best-looking man in all of the Early Edge universe. Sia Najad. Oh, me. Oh, little old me.
How are you, Coach? Doing well. Thanks for the compliment. I'm actually really excited about this week, both in the DFS realm and the betting realm, against the spread, you name it, the props that I gave out on Friday. I'm feeling really good about this one.
Oh, very good. And I apologize. I had to miss on Friday, but we're still trying to finish this gorgeous home studio that I have. And sometimes things happen, but I missed you guys very, very much. But I watched. Now, also, this man is on the Prop Spectacular every single Friday at, is it 4 or 4:30? I always get the time mixed up. 4, right? 4 p.m. Eastern time. See ya, Uncle Dave, and my man, Prop Stars. Alex, good afternoon, sir.
Coach, what's good? It's still morning in parts unknown. Cousin Sia, Larry, great to see you. I'm pumped. My Eagles have the week off, but I still love this slate.
All right, let's get into it. 7 early games, 4 at 4 o'clock, and then, of course, Sunday Night Football. We will go through best bets, props. If you have a prop in the game that we're talking about, put it into the chat. Give me the juice. I'll try to get to as many as we possibly can, but this show moves, so you got to stay with us. All right, so let's get into it. Game number 1, Colts and the Titans. In a weird scheduling quirk, guys, this is a rematch from Week 4 when the Titans went to Indianapolis and they won 24-17. Now, as a brand, AB is on the Titans -2.5. And see, I'll start with you. The Titans seem to be trending upward and having already won by 7 on the road. This feels like a pretty good Titans spot.
I think it's a great Titans spot. I actually agree with AB for the Titans being a 2.5-point favorite. I think that surprises some people a little bit. I think they saw all the passing attempts from Matt Ryan, how prolific he was last week. Honestly, I think that was more a blip on the radar than anything as it pertains to Matt Ryan. But I love the spot. Tennessee at home. I believe they're coming off a bye. I think they're catching Indianapolis at the right time. I think the Titans and Indianapolis are very comparable teams, to be honest with you. But Indianapolis being at home, listen, Jonathan Taylor is coming back, but we always talk about this. Running backs don't move the line, and he didn't move the line when he was declared officially active. So I think it's a difference, but I don't think it's a big difference. I do like the Titans in a tightly contested game, but I think they do cover this 2.5-point number.
And Maestro, there has been, with the Colts, a Matt Ryan resurgence. Yes, a lot of interceptions and mistakes, but also doing some pretty good things. The Colts team, not the same team from 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 58 dropbacks and no sacks last week, and they are airing it out. I think Jonathan Taylor, he was expected to be back this week. That's why the line didn't move. I like the Colts in this spot. I mean, you look at the Titans, and they are so fortunate to be 3-2. It was a Carson Wentz interception on the goal line. They were outgained yards per play, 6.6 to 3.9 against the Commanders. In fact, net yards per play, that's how many yards are you gaining? How many are you allowing on every play? They're the worst in the National Football League. Mike Vrabel's a great coach. Off the bye, we know he's undefeated off the bye against the spread and straight up. But I think this is a Colts spot. I think they are turning things around, and I will take them plus the points.
And that Vrabel stat that you just gave, where he, after a bye in his head coaching career, has never lost. So that's why I played the money line at -140, took those 2.5 points out, and just said, just win the game, because that's what he does coming off buys. 2 quick props. Alex, I'm going to come to you from the chat. Kyle Granson over 17.5 receiving yards, -121. Alec Pierce over 43.5, -131.
Granson's kind of stuck in a rotation. They use lots of different tight ends. I do like him. There's a lot of mouths to feed currently on this Colts offense. That's also applicable to Pierce. I like him more. He seems to have firmly established himself as the number 2 option in the passing game. So I like Pierce. Granson to me is a stay away.
Okay, very good. See, let me come back to you. A DFS question. Do I leave Christian McCaffrey in, or do I put Jamal Williams in?
Well, you're saving a ton of money by putting Jamal Williams in. So the answer to that question is more, what are you doing with that extra money? I'm not playing CMC in DFS this week, so that probably answers your question. It's fine to pivot to Jamal Williams. There's a lot of other guys to pivot to as well. Kenneth Walker, you can go obviously to Josh Jacobs. There's a lot of guys you can put in there, but I'm not on CMC. If you want to play Jamal Williams, that's fine.
Kenneth Walker, by the way, the maestro's on Kenneth Walker in that Seattle game. He has been a stud, and we'll get to that game when we get to it. Alex, go.
I'm on Kenneth Walker too, Coach.
My bad. I didn't mean to exclude you, sir. My apologies. All right, game number 2 at 1 o'clock. And this is interesting, guys, because we've been talking about the Atlanta Falcons with the Philadelphia Eagles. Haven't we said, one team is undefeated on the field, the other team is undefeated against the spread. But as we look a little bit closer, guess who's tied for first in the NFC South? The Atlanta Falcons. They are. And they've been sneaking up on teams, including the Bucs. So they're playing the Bengals, who are also 3-3. This is a rubber meets the road. Here's where we stand as a brand. M Squared, he's all over this game. Bengals money line, Ravens money line in a parlay -115. I love that play. And then Jamar Chase over 79.5 receiving yards is up to around 81 or 82. He said he would play it to 86. Maestro, let's start with you. This is a really sneaky big game today. What's your feelings on it?
My initial lean would be the Falcons because just of how well they're running ball and how well the offensive line is playing, and the Bengals' run defense is worse than their pass defense. But on the other side, they are a terrible pass defense. They don't get pressure. And A.J. Terrell, Mike talked about his numbers. He's dealing with a hamstring issue. He's going to play. But when that guy's healthy, he is one of the top corners. But I don't think he's healthy. How's he going to keep up with Jamar Chase? And look at the way they went shotgun, got Joe Burrow comfortable. So this, for me, is a stay away. I know there's a lot of strong opinions about this game on the website, on SportsLine, both ways.
Yeah, it's a great advice. If you're a SportsLine member, it's a great way to go into the game. And sometimes there's 3, 4, 5 picks. You can read the reasons why a certain handicapper at SportsLine is feeling a certain way. See, let me come to you. Because of the way the Bengals won last week, they very easily could be 2-4, but it was that Jamar Chase late touchdown. Do you think that will help their confidence heading into today?
Well, I think game plan adjustment is helping their confidence as well. So the answer to your question is yes, but them operating out of the shotgun is really helping the passing game, and it's helping Joe Mixon from an efficiency standpoint. So I understand Atlanta's really good against the spread. If you guys recall last Sunday when we were talking about that 49ers Atlanta game, I told everybody to watch out. This is a very scrappy Atlanta team, and this could go a little different than people are expecting. Not that I thought they were going to win, but I did think they were going to keep it close. In this case, though, I think Atlanta might be catching Cincinnati at the wrong time. So for me, especially because of some of these offensive adjustments, and we have T. Higgins, who appears to be 100% healthy at this point. We have Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon running it a lot better. I actually think I like Cincinnati to cover in this one.
Okay. I like him to cover too. And obviously I said I like that M squared money line parlay. I love that because I think the Ravens are going to be in a get right spot as well. We'll get to that game in a second. Alex? Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Really like Drake London in this matchup. Just want to touch on him really briefly. Rookie wide receiver for the Falcons. Gotten off to a very, very good start this year. However, he's kind of teetered out a little bit over the last few weeks. He's dealt with some injuries. Wasn't playing a full complement of snaps over the last few weeks. However, last week versus San Francisco, he ran a route on almost every single Mariota drop back. And I am very encouraged by Drake London. I also think this is a matchup that's going to force the Falcons to be more pass heavy. They've been one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL. I think Cincinnati can force the Falcons to actually have to throw the ball. We're getting a big discount on Drake London, 44.5 receiving yards. This is current line. I think that's a really good value.
I have it at 46.5. What would you play it up to?
Probably 48.5.
Okay. Other question, one that jumped out to me. Longest reception, Jamar Chase, 25.5. It's juiced to the under.
They're manufacturing so many touches for Jamar Chase close to the line of scrimmage. What's interesting is T. Higgins actually has a deeper A-dot. Last year, we saw Jamar Chase with one of the deepest A-dots of any elite wide receivers in the NFL. They're throwing the ball to him a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, trying to get the ball in his hands. I actually prefer looking at longest reception props for Higgins over Chase.
Go ahead, Maestro.
I misspoke. There is not a disagreement on the site. There are 4 experts all lined up in unison, including the number 1 expert right now, Zach Simony, on a 16-4 NFL run. Everyone is on the same side on the website.
Zach attack. doing workout in Vegas. I love that very much. By the way, Alex, is Goose okay?
That was a Goose fight that you heard a couple of minutes ago.
Wow. Wow. Goose.
Mixing it up.
Mixing it up. Somebody,
Yeah.
Joe said, nothing will ever beat Severance's dog. No, I think that will be the all-time greatest moment in the history of the early edge. If you guys didn't see it, obviously it's been at least a year and a half because he's not on the show anymore. But his dog Snoopy threw up on his couch on the little doggy steps right behind him as he was giving a take. And he had no idea it was happening. And it was literally the funniest thing that I've ever seen. Ever. I wish we could reenact it, but damn it, it was so funny. All right, moving on. Game number 3. And this is a game that all of a sudden, gentlemen, is getting a lot of attention. Lions at the Cowboys. Cowboys laying 7. The total sitting at 49. Sia and Alex, you both have plays in this one. Sia, let's start with you.
Yeah, my play in this one is Ezekiel Elliott. I just think this is one of those games where it's a game where I think the coaching staff and the owner, for that matter, who was, I think, part of the coaching staff, I think they're really going to shove Ezekiel Elliott down our throat. And I think it's for good reason. This is a team in Detroit that's allowing over 5 yards per carry. Actually, it's closer to 5.5. It's one of the worst in the league, as you'd expect from this defense. So while their secondary is pretty terrible too, I expect a lot. With Dak's first game back, yeah, I suppose he could air it out. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to have a nice game. I think Michael Gallup has a real shot at having a nice game, maybe even Tony Pollard. But I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Ezekiel Elliott in a neutral game script. And when it becomes a positive game script, which I fully expect, I think we're going to see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott. I kind of spelled it out in terms of what his rushing attempts needs to be. His rushing attempt total, at least the line, is 15.5. If he comes under that, if he gets 15 and he averages 4.5 yards per carry, he will surpass his 64.5 rushing yards. I think his rushing attempt total will be in that 15 to 17 range, and I expect him to pass the 64.5 rushing yard total.
I think you're spot on with this one. This one should cash somewhere early, mid, fourth quarter, based off of what we think the game script is going to be. The Lions have been getting gashed all year. But Alex, Dak is back, as Sia just said. And when Dak is back, he has his targets that he loves to go to. Who do you think that will be today?
I think that's going to be Dalton Schultz. We're getting a nice discount on his receiving line. This is a rare prop that I've given out where you actually can get a better number than I gave out on Friday. I believe this is somewhere around 29.5. I'm still fully comfortable with this prop, playing it there. There's been no news to suggest that this is taking a downturn for any significant reason. But yeah, we're getting a big discount on Dalton Schultz. He's had a really tough year. Started the season out well, the first game. Then he started getting hurt. Then Dak got hurt. It was all downhill from there. Cooper Rush and him just did not have any chemistry together. Dak loves Dalton Schultz. 13 of their last 17 games, he's gone over this number. He's averaged 51 yards receiving with Dak at quarterback. Detroit is also terrible defensively, 28th in DVOA to the tight end position, 32nd in DVOA overall defensively. They surrender 62 yards per game to opposing tight ends. Schultz practiced in full this week, not even listed on the injury report. We've got a 49-point total. I often talk about getting cheap pieces in potential shootouts. This has a high projected total. This is as cheap as you can get for Dalton Schultz. This would not surprise me if this is the last time he's under 35 or 38 yards as far as his receiving line this season. So I am buying Dalton Schultz over. I put it out at 31.5. It's currently 29.5. I'd play it up to 32.5, 33.5.
I always get spoiled because I'm one of the few that gets Alex's picks before he actually gives them out. So we get the numbers as they come out. He's that good. Now, Maestro, let me come to you because from a side and a total perspective, the total has been in play for the Lions almost every single game. But the Cowboys and wanting to protect Dak in his first one back, I don't know if the total's the play, but it feels like the Cowboys minus the 7 is the play.
I mean, there's so many sharp people on the Lions plus the points. In the circa million, it is the number one consensus play, Lions plus the 7. If I had to play it, I would definitely lay the points. I'm not going to take the points with Detroit because of how bad Jared Goff has been on the road and especially under pressure. I expect the Cowboys to get a lot of pressure on him and no DeAndre Swift, which came out and I think helped move the line back from 6.5 up to 7. I think this is going to be a big game for Dak. I read something that he picked this opponent to come back, and why wouldn't you? This is a terrible defense, and I think he wants to make a statement that there shouldn't be any QB controversy, so I expect a big day from him.
Yeah, that's a great point. That last point, a great point. Certain players like to show out, And Dak needs to show not only his own team, but the world that he's healthy. And this Dallas team is worthy of being the 4-2 that they are with that defense that they have. Quick fantasy question from the chat. See, I'm coming to you. Gallup or Robinson in fantasy?
Well, which Robinson? James Robinson? I'm assuming. Yeah, or Wan'Dale Robinson. I would go with Michael Gallup. I like Michael Gallup in a potential ceiling spot this week.
Okay, a little spike game for Gallup this week. All right, that's game number 3 at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Now, we're really moving here. I love this. Now, this next one, it could bring the show to a grinding halt, just like this game could be a grind all day. No offense, Sia. No offense to your
None
boys.
taken. None taken.
That's not true, but okay. Packers on the road. This one has been in the 5 to 6 range. It's come all the way down to 4 now. Commanders 2-4. The Packers, just like the Bucks, 3-3. Aaron Rodgers. Total sitting at 41.5. But see, let's start with you because nobody knows this team better than you. Do you think that Taylor Heineke being inserted as a starting quarterback with Wentz out with the injury will help this team?
I think it probably will. I mean, he's certainly a spark plug for this team. I mean, listen, the receivers might not be super happy about it because he is not the quarterback Carson Wentz is in terms of timing and in terms of the strength of his arm strength. But with that said, he can kind of move the pocket. He can run around. He has been good for Washington in the past. And I think this really comes down to the defensive matchup. What can Washington do to the Green Bay Packers? Their secondary is bad. So it could very well be a big Aaron Rodgers game, but the Washington defensive front can get to Aaron Rodgers too. And we know under pressure, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been great this season. So I don't know what game script we're going to get. I do know that on the Washington side, listen, they like Taylor Heineke, but they're going to run the ball a lot. If they can establish the run, Washington is going to cover this spread. They are just going to grind this game out. That's why the total is 41. That's why the line is coming down towards Washington. If Brian Robinson in particular can establish the running game, this is going to be a close game. But it is also potentially a blow-up spot for Aaron Rodgers if he can get the passing game going.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Maestro, and the way the Packers gave up the big lead to the Giants in London, they get manhandled by the Jets last week. So they come in a wounded animal. Has there ever been a better spot for Washington to get right than, and I can't believe I'm saying this, than playing the Green Bay Packers?
I don't think so. And it's crazy to see this line drop all the way from 5.5 down to 4. And I totally agree with it. I think Heineke will give them a lift. This is not an explosive Packers team. They couldn't pick up any of the stunts that the Jets were throwing at them. And we saw the Commanders get 5 sacks from 5 different people and 12 hits on Justin Fields. One of the things they do well is they do get after the quarterback. They still have a good defensive front, even without Chase Young. A lot of great players up there. So I do think this is going to be a tight game. I think Heineke gives them a list, and I'm looking for Terry McLaurin to finally get on track.
All right, let's talk about him for a second then, Alex, because his reception total is over 4.5, juiced to the under. It's plus 139 to the over. And his yardage number, let me find it. My apologies. Right now isn't even out yet. I don't even have that.
54.5.
Oh, at 54.5 is something. Okay. Do you like McLaurin in this spot?
I don't. This is a really difficult matchup for the Commanders' passing game. First of all, these are the 2 slowest teams in the NFL. Both these teams burn more clock than any other teams in the NFL. Furthermore, the Packers are the biggest run funnel in the NFL. I think you're going to see a big dose of Brian Robinson. I also think the other backs are going to mix in as well. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. Also, the Packers go very run-heavy themselves, so they keep the clock turning. They keep the other offense off the field as well. And the Packers have a very good pass defense on top of that. So this is just not an ideal matchup for any pass catchers, particularly on the Commanders side of the football. So I just think this is a stay away game if you're looking for overs, especially guys like wide receivers like McLaurin. So I'm staying away personally.
Yeah, it really feels like there's nothing in this game I want to play and hope. Because if I don't watch a game, I certainly don't want to play the props in the game. By the way, guys, look who is in the chat. Our girl Allison, the latest contest winner. She named Jason Spector as the speculator. And yes, unlike some people in the early edge universe, I paid on time. And she texted back to me. She says, Coach, I'm playing with house money. I say that all the time. Allison is our girl. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for participating. And no strings attached. Maestro, yes.
Another thing that you can do if you want to play with house money is watch the Friday show, because our boy Alex right here, 25-9 on that show alone, 14-9 in his SportsLine articles, which come out the day before. Just FYI.
Oh, and that shows, is it $99 to watch that show?
I think it's Friday? $800 for the first 3 months installment. Yeah.
Those guys must drive. We must drive them crazy. They must hate us, but that's all right. That's all right. They'll come around. All right, next game. And Alex, you said the Packers and the Commanders were the two slowest teams in the NFL. Well, these next two may be just as slow. Bucks, and I cannot even believe this number when you're averaging 20 points a game. You're laying 13 to the Panthers. And the general manager of the Panthers stood in front of cameras this week after he traded away his best player, and he said, no, we're not tanking. We expect to win. Interesting. All right, so here's where we're at as a brand. This morning, R.J. White gave out the Bucks-Panthers under 39. That's how bad these offenses have been. Under 39, and we're playing it. AB's on the Bucks' second half team total over 12.5. He's really been hitting these kind of bets lately because it's basically betting on the Bucks not getting it going until the second half. Then Maestro, because of the slowness, because of the lack of offense, you love another prop in this game.
Yeah, I do love Leonard Fournette to go under 67.5, which I believe he's done 5 straight times. But I also just want to talk about this Panthers offense. They didn't get an offensive touchdown last week. They got a pick 6 in that game against the Rams. And I'm looking at the stats, and it looks like Christian McCaffrey had about 150 yards from scrimmage, and he's not on the team anymore. So I just don't think they're going to score at all. But one thing they do well is they do stop the run, 4.2 yards a carry. And Fournette has just been terrible, 3.6 yards a carry. And the main thing is they keep running him right into the middle of the line to set up 2nd and 9, 3rd and 6. And I think this day they are going to come out throwing and jump on this team early. So that's why I'm going under for Lenny Fournette.
This does seem like a get-right spot for Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, who reemphasized this week he has no plans to retire anytime soon. Well, if he doesn't play any better, they may force him into retirement. Do you like anything about this number or the total 39?
I don't like anything about it. I mean, I understand the underplay here, but it's not something I would be on. Honestly, if anything, I would probably be on Carolina because this line has jumped up from 10 to 11 to 13. But it is a stay away spot for me. I don't trust. I mean, when you say it's a potential get right spot for Tom Brady and company, that's true. But it was also true last week against the Steelers defense, who didn't have their entire secondary for the most part. 3 out of the 4 guys on the back end were not present in that game. So I think, listen, Tom Brady is always good for that game that kind of reminds everybody that he's still Tom Brady. Is it going to happen this week? Maybe, but I'm just not willing to bet on it. If anything, I'd be on the Carolina side of this one.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so that is game number 5 at 1 o'clock today. Let's move on to the next one. And Alex, I'm going to start with you. The Giants. Do not look now, but they are 5-1. And I don't care how they got to be 5-1. The fact is they are 5-1, and they go on the road today to the Jags, who are 2-4. Total sitting at 43.5. And to the surprise of some, the Jags are favored by 3. However, I went and looked, as I always do preparing for these shows, at our picks on SportsLine. And there is one person that's on this show right now that likes the Jags. And I'll get to him in a second. But, Alex, you love a play and a player that has really been good and strong this year. Who am I talking about?
Talking about Saquon Barkley, coach. Going back to the well, this has been one of my favorite props to attack all season long. That's Saquon Barkley, longest rush, over 15.5 yards. I also like his rushing line this week. I also like his combination line. Listen, we got off the Saquon bandwagon last week, worked out well. He was somewhat bottled up against a very good Ravens defense. Much easier matchup, in my opinion, against the Jags. Barkley, he's been phenomenal this season, ranked 6th in rushing yards over expected per attempt. He's the running back 10 in breakaway percentage. He's in the ideal position of having an elite workload. He generates efficiency on that as well. So he has just been phenomenal. Checks every single box. Also, 19.8 rushing attempts per game to go along with 4.5 targets. He's averaging 102 yards on the ground, 25 yards receiving per game. That's 127 combined rushing and receiving yards, 5.2 yards per carry as well. Jags are surrendering 55 receiving yards per game to opposing running backs through the air. They give up a ton of big plays. We're going to see Barkley, the focal point of this Giants offense. This is also a great matchup because the game script is likely going to be competitive as reflected by the point spread. So I love Saquon Barkley. I think he's almost a lock to get 20 plus carries. If he gets 20 rushing attempts, he's going to snap off some big plays. The Giants offense is predicated on him breaking off big plays. That's why I love me some Saquon over 15.5 longest rush.
Speaking of snap, in the chat, Dominic says, I've got the Giants plus 3.5. Oh, snap! It's got a hit. Maestro, tell him why he's wrong.
Well, he has a good number at 3.5, and I wouldn't lay 3.5 with the Jags, but I do feel very good about Jags -3 because, they've only had 2 home games, and let's look what they did in those home games. 24-0 against the Colts, and then they lose to Houston 13-6, but absolutely dominate the stats. So 13 points allowed in 2 home games. This is their spot. They got it going on offense last week. Trevor Lawrence looked great, and Etienne has been a dynamo. 20 carries, 157 yards. That's 8 yards a carry the last 2 weeks. He's great as a receiver also. He's the starter now. And here's another key factor. The Giants blitz more than anyone in the league, 50% of the time. Well, Trevor Lawrence is number 7 against the blitz. They also play man at one of the highest rates, and Trevor Lawrence is number 12 against man coverage. So I think it's the get right spot is for the Jags defense, and the offense keeps doing what it's doing. You got a good number, but I still like the Jags.
Based off what Maestro just said, Alex, I got to come back to you because in the chat, Zach said the Jags allow the 3rd lowest rush yards per game. How can you say that, Alex? What would you say back to him?
They give up a ton of big plays as well. I also think this defense is just simply overrated. They're young, they're talented, but if you look closer, if you look at a lot of the advanced metrics, they're not nearly as good as some of the raw numbers suggest. So I would say to look a little deeper, dig a little deeper.
Zach, I say it all the time. There are levels to this game. I'm sure you're on a level, and we love having you. Don't get me wrong. But Alex is the best. He's just the best. All right, moving on. Next game, and I'm starting with you, Sia. Browns, and this is the last 1 o'clock Eastern game, by the way. I love this matchup for the Ravens. Browns going on the road. Ravens gave up a big lead last week and lost. They're going to be pissed today. -6.5. I love getting it under 7. Total 46. RJ White is already on the Ravens, -6.5. AB is on Lamar Jackson, longest rush over 16.5 yards. M squared, as I told you, is on the Bengals money line with the Ravens money line, -115 for that parlay. And Sia, I'm coming to you first. Give me a prop that you like in this game.
Yeah, I've got Amari Cooper over 55.5 receiving yards. He only had 44 last week, but prior to that, he was very good. And for the record, the 44 last week, it was on 12 targets. He just happened to be very inefficient. He got in the end zone, so you got there with your redraft leagues and in DFS to some degree, but he is getting the volume over the last 5 games, 12 targets, 4 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets. And I think even though the matchup isn't great for him, with respect to the defensive backs, I do think they're going to move him around a lot. And I do think volume is going to get him there, particularly in a negative game script. I do like the bets you just gave out. I do like the Ravens to win this game. They're favored by around 6.5, 7 points. I think as much as I like Nick Chubb in pretty much every game, I think guys like David Njoku, guys like Amari Cooper are going to have to be involved in this game. So again, based on volume alone, I'll take Amari Cooper over 55.5 receiving yards. I actually like his reception total too, if you hadn't noticed. But I've on the Friday show locked in on that receiving yard total, and I'm going to stick with it.
All right, so are we. Now, Larry, last week, Alex had Saquon Barkley longest rush over whatever the number was against the Ravens, and it cashed. You like another stud running back this week. Same bet, different number against the same team. Explain that for me.
Yeah, Nick Chubb broke my heart and a lot of people's hearts last week with only getting an 18-yard rush. His prop was 19.5 or 18.5 in some spots. It's the first time he has not hit his longest rush in 11 straight. And now they drop it all the way to 16.5. And I think it's curious. I think it assumes the game script is not going to be in the Browns' favor and they won't be able to give him as many carries. But according to True Media, the Ravens give up 5 yards before contact 16% of the time, that's the second most in the NFL. So if he gets that running room, that early running room, he can get to the next level and get that 20-yard run, or in this case, we only need 17.
Alex, I know you love Mark Andrews as a tight end, and he did practice on Friday. When you look at the props for Lamar Jackson, I'm looking at him longest reception, over 22.5, total 68.5, and his receptions, I can't find it right now. But do you like Mark Andrews today?
Yeah, hard not to like Mark Andrews. I'm confident that he's going to play a full complement of snaps. He's the second most targeted player in the NFL, not just at the tight end position, overall, coach. So this guy is literally a wide receiver functioning as or tight end functioning as a wide receiver. He's the first, second, and third option in a pretty low volume passing attack, but obviously gets all the looks. I love Mark Andrews. Hard not to like him. I think this is a good spot, especially if Cleveland can push Baltimore. That's kind of why I'm apprehensive, though. I don't know, with Baltimore being a big favorite, if they're going to need to air the ball out a ton. But anytime Mark Andrews is on the field, it's hard not to like him.
All right. Very, very good. All right. Those are all the 1 o'clock games. By the way, Dan, I see you in the chat. We'll each give you a pick for your pick 4 parlay. It came very close last week. Almost hit the Sports Equinox 4-way too. At the end of the show, we all have time. We'll each give you a pick. You put them 4 together and see if that hits. All right, let's move on to the 4 o'clock games. There are 4 today. This one at 4:05, and Maestro, I'm starting with you because it's interesting, the pick that you have, and I want you to explain it. The Jets are laying 1.5 in Mile High to take on the Broncos. However, the total, 36.5. Ouch. But Maestro, there is no Russell Wilson. Obviously, you're taking the Jets, right?
Yeah, obviously I'm not. I mean, Russell Wilson has been terrible, and Brett Rippon, kind of an unknown, but I do think they're going to do more rollouts and bootlegs and do what Nathaniel Hackett wanted to do with Russell Wilson. But it comes down to the defense. The defense has allowed 1 touchdown in 3 home games. They're facing a Jets team that has been very gritty and very successful so far. But on the road, after a huge upset, now you go to Mile High again, traveling for the 2nd straight week. Zach Wilson, the worst quarterback under pressure in the league, and it's not close. And the Broncos will get pressure on you. His numbers, 4 of 23 for 49 yards and 2 picks when pressured.
All right, so let's talk about his numbers here for a second because they are very, very low, very enticing. But as Maestro just said, there's a reason for it. His passing number is over 178.5 minus 116. His attempts are 30.5, and his completions are just 16.5. Can we touch any of these?
Those numbers are staggering. I mean,
Right?
it does lend itself to, the idea that like Denver is obviously going to show up on defense. This is definitely going to be a running game back and forth. If anything with Zach Wilson, I would actually go with his over in completions. I do think he's going to need, we know he's going to pepper guys like Breece Hall and Michael Carter and get some high quality touches there. But I think he might actually end up being in a negative game script here and might have to throw a little bit more in the 4th quarter than people think. So whether he actually completes that for a number of yards is a different question. But I don't really like any of these, but I would lean towards his over in his completions.
Okay. I love the chat, by the way, because the chat's always taking care of us when we can't take care of ourselves. What do I mean by that? Mile High says it's whipping out here, 20 to 25 sustained wins with gusts up to 50 by game time. Now, Jeffrey says that I'm automatically going to go with the under. But, Alex, you're our prop specialist. Why do you not just automatically jump on an under just because there's weather?
For a variety of reasons. A, because oftentimes the books have similar information to you and are aware of said weather, and that is baked into the current number, or it's been bet either way by bettors, and it's become an efficient number. So, yeah, just because you have access to information doesn't mean other people don't.
Very good. All right, we have just crossed the bottom of the hour a couple of minutes ago. For those of you just dropping in right now, welcome to the Early Edge. We do it every single Sunday at this time, noon Eastern time, 3 shows today. In fact, we'll be back here live tonight, 7:30, to look back on all of the tickets that we're going to cash this afternoon and also counting down to the Steelers and the Dolphins tonight for Sunday Night Football. Game number 2 at 4:05, total 46. 1-3, Houston. 1-4, Las Vegas. The Raiders really need to get things going. They've been close in a lot of games, and right now they're staring up everybody else in their division. So, Alex, I'm going to start with you on this one because we haven't really heard anything from the Texans. They've had their off week already. They haven't done much of anything, but there's a little diamond in the rough for their offense. Who?
Yes, I'm fading Brandon Cooks this week, coach. Under 62.5 yards. He's currently sitting at 59.5. That's basically the cutoff of where I'd play it down to. Listen, Cooks has really struggled this season. He's been held under this line in 4 or 5 games this season. He's averaging only 47 receiving yards per game. The Texans are also really relying heavily on their stud rookie running back, Dameon Pierce. In previous seasons, and last year in particular with Davis Mills, they were throwing the ball quite a bit. That has not been the case this season. They are running the ball a bunch. Also, Nico Collins is beginning to emerge in that offense. He's taking away targets from Brandon Cooks. We're not seeing the same target floor that we've seen from Cooks in previous years as well. Also, while the Vegas secondary hasn't been great this year, they've actually done somewhat well against opposing number 1 wide receivers. They're 6th in DVOA against number 1 wide receivers as well. Brandon Cooks is still being treated as a number 1 wide receiver by opposing defenses. I think he'll get the majority of the attention from the secondary. Also, this just looks like a game script to me where there's going to be not a lot of passing volume. I think both teams are going to run the ball quite a bit. Josh Jacobs on the other side and Dameon Pierce for the Texans. So this is a low volume passing attack. We're seeing another wide receiver on the team emerge. And frankly, Cook just has not performed well at all. If you look closely at his advanced metrics, they are very, very bad. 5.9 yards per target. That is not good. Nico Collins has a 10.5 in that category. So I love fading Brandon Cooks. Under 62.5 is the number I gave out. It's currently 59.5. That's probably the cutoff of where I'd play it, though.
Yeah, he is certainly not a diamond in the rough in today's game. Now, on the flip side, Maestro, Josh Jacobs has been tremendous for Vegas. They need more than him, but he's been somebody that we absolutely can count on. What do you like with him today?
Yeah, 2 props in this game, starting with Josh Jacobs, over 17.5 receiving. He's gone over it 3 straight games with 31, 31, and 39 on 5 catches each game. And playing a Houston team gives up the 7th most receiving yards to running backs because of that cover 2 scheme. They let a lot underneath. There's no Darren Waller again, so Josh Jacobs picks up some of those underneath routes. And then on the other side, just like Alex talked about with Brandon Cooks fading him, I'm going with Nico Collins. Longest reception over 19.5, has gone over in 4 straight. A lot of people don't know about this guy, but he's sucked up over 60% of the air yards in this offense the last time out, and his snap share every single week has gone up. Now it's over 80%. Plus the Raiders are missing their top corner, Nate Hobbs. 1 catch for 20 yards gets it done.
You know, as I look at this, Sia, love those 3 props so far. It's easy to discount the side or the total, but the Texans have looked horrendous this year offensively. Why aren't we playing the Raiders minus the 7 or buying the half point to 6.5?
It's a big number, but I actually agree with you here. I think the Raiders are a better team than everybody thinks. I mean, let's just get that out there. They should. There's a couple games that they probably should have won this year already. Coming off a bye, I really like the Raiders in this spot. I think Houston can potentially establish the run with Dameon Pierce. I don't think they're going to do much in the passing game, which lends itself to taking that under with Brandon Cooks. I actually like Las Vegas. Coming off such a tough loss, I think they're really going to put their foot down here, and I think they can with Josh Jacobs, with Devontae Adams, with Derek Carr. I think this is a game to fade Houston for sure.
This is what I call a professional spot, meaning a team hasn't played well. They have it. They have the talent. You got to be a professional to be able to bounce back and play inspired football when you're 1-4 and you have to win. But I love this spot. All right, 2 games at 425. And I actually like them both. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch today. The first one, Seahawks and the Chargers. Chargers laying 5, total 51. The Seahawks team, maybe, guys, the biggest surprise in the entire NFL this year. So here's where we stand as a show, because each one of you have a pick in this game. RJ White, he's on the Seahawks plus the 5. Then, Larry, let's start with you. You love, and Alex, I know you do too, Kenneth Walker in this game. Talk to me.
Yeah, and I also like the Seahawks along with RJ. We're in sync. We're also both on the Texans, by the way, on the website. Check out the reasoning there. But I do like this Kenneth Walker. He owns the backfield now. DJ Dallas got 2 carries last week. That's it. Without Rashad Penny, it's all this rookie who's explosive. He's gone way over this number the last couple of games, and facing a Chargers defense, 31st in yards per carry allowed, but also they have given up a lot of big runs, a lot of explosive runs this season. So I love this play over 16.5.
And Alex, if he goes over 16.5, that could lead to an even bigger day, which would play right into your prop.
Yeah, I love his rushing total period. I also love Larry's prop, but I gave him out at 67.5 rushing yards. I believe it's currently up to 72.5. That's about the cutoff, though, however, for me. But he has just been absolutely dynamic. Over the last 2 weeks, he's turned 21 carries into 185 rushing yards. That's good for 6.4 yards per carry. Also faced two much better rushing defenses than he's facing today. Played New Orleans, who are 14th in rushing DVOA, and the Cardinals, who are 11th in rushing DVOA. He's the running back 3 in rush yards over expected per attempt, the running back 1 in breakaway percentage. The advanced metrics, absolutely love this guy. Running back 3 in elusive rating. He has just been phenomenal. He's getting big workloads. Larry mentioned they're not really using any other backs in this backfield. Seattle likes to establish the rush. This is an amazing matchup on paper against a very, very soft Chargers rush defense. I love me some Kenny Walker. The guy is absolutely dynamic, super explosive. Love the prop Larry gave out as well.
Boom, boom, boom. By the way, a quick reminder, AB, our 5-tool player, he is in the chat. If you have any questions for him, throw them in there, and he will answer them as we go. Now, see it. Let me come to you. Apparently, I didn't know that if you need to use the restroom, that you need a cart to do it if you're an NFL player. But apparently, DK Metcalf is such a big star that he gets driven to the restroom. Now, when he comes out of said locker room, he is an absolute beast, and today should be a get-right spot for him. Do you think so?
A cart to the restroom is the natural progression for these diva receivers, clearly. And then DK is going to take the lead when it comes to diva. He's also going to take the lead when it comes to receiving yards in this game for the Seattle Seahawks. It sounds like we all like the Seattle Seahawks to a very large degree. I like DK Metcalf over 66.5 receiving yards. It is a pretty high total, but if you take out last game where the Seahawks weren't pushed very much, and when it comes to getting pushed, keep in mind, this is the highest total on the slate. This is a 51-point total. So the Chargers will apply more pressure than the Arizona Cardinals did last week. Keep in mind, Tyler Lockett, he didn't really practice all week. He is going to play this week, but I do think it's possible he's used more as a decoy. And regardless, he didn't get to practice with Geno this week. So I think more targets will spill over to DK Metcalf. Before last week's poor performance, he had 88 yards, 149 yards, and 64 yards. And while it is true that the Chargers are a run funnel, they aren't very good on the back end either. J.C. Jackson, this prized acquisition, got benched last week. He hasn't been good coming off that ankle surgery. I just don't think they match up very well with DK Metcalf. And in a likely trailing game script, I like DK Metcalf to get peppered with a lot of targets, and we know he can make a house call at any given moment. Give me DK Metcalf over 66.5 receiving yards.
And let's remember what we saw last week by this Chargers defense. Russell Wilson was able to find receivers that were wide open, and they still only scored 16 points. Seahawks, if that happens to them, they'll score 30 today. They'll score 30 today. They're that much better than the Broncos. Quick question for you, Alex. Apparently, Kenneth Walker is over 71 now at FanDuel. Would you still take it that high?
I mentioned 72 is my cutoff, coach.
Okay, my apologies. I didn't hear that. Okay, thank you very much. All right, now, one last game. And this one, the Chiefs must feel like they're playing a VIP schedule every single week. They're playing the 49ers. And it was a hard matchup before, but now you're going to add in perhaps the greatest weapon that the NFL has, if you're talking rushing and receiving together, in Christian McCaffrey. Well, we don't know how much he's going to play, but why wouldn't he? If he can figure out the playbook quickly. The Chiefs, though, on the road laying 1, total at 49. Mikey is on the Chiefs 49ers under 48.5. That scares me a little bit. And Sia, let me come to you because we have not been on this particular receiver that much this year. Why today?
Yeah, it's mostly because, so it's Brandon Ayuk over 53.5 receiving yards. And it's mostly because of, it's interesting. As this week progressed, the line has moved a little bit towards San Francisco. I still imagine a trailing game script for San Francisco for the most part. And we've seen what has happened with Brandon Ayuk with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. He really is the wide receiver 1. I mean, I understand Debo was there and he might actually out-touch Brandon Ayuk. But when it comes to wide receiver touches, I like Brandon Ayuk in this game quite a bit. We know he can make a house call here and there, but I just think against this Kansas City defense, especially when you consider the number of targets he has been getting lately, I think Brandon Ayuk sails over this 53.5 receiving yard total.
I love this one. And Maestro, let me come to you because this changes the trade by the Panthers to the 49ers, changes everything from a betting perspective. It changes everything from an offensive betting perspective. When you heard about this trade, because your mind always thinks like that, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were that this team, if they just got healthy, even without Christian McCaffrey, was a team that I would love to make it to the Super Bowl. And now you had Christian McCaffrey, and the report is that he might play 20 snaps. That's a lot of snaps for his first week. But I just want to look at the guys they're getting back today. You're getting Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, Jimmy Ward, Mike McGlinchey, Hufanga, the safety who had the pick six against the Rams, questionable. Charvarius Ward, questionable. Armstead, the only guy that's out. I mean, this team is getting healthy. To me, it'd be 49ers or pass.
Okay. Quick question, Alex, as I come to you. Bets buy in the chat. Pacheco over 6.5 receiving yards seems low. But what do we always say about those super low numbers on running backs?
Highly, highly, highly volatile stuff. Running back receiving props are just by default. They're going to be very likely influenced by the game script. So they're often going to be the quarterback's third, fourth, fifth read. Really hard to account for, really hard to predict. I stay away from them.
It's almost like you have a pre-recorded answer for that. Highly volatile. That's very true. So let's stay with you, Alex, because even though his numbers have continued to go up as far as what he needs to cash the overs, Travis Kelce may be better than he's been his entire career, especially since he's now the number one without Tyreek Hill there and still getting those numbers. Do you like Kelce in this matchup today?
I feel his numbers are fairly efficient. To me, it's over or nothing with Kelce. Obviously, he's good enough to get off even on the best defenses. This is a very good defense. Obviously, Larry mentioned getting a lot of key players back as well. He will get plenty of defensive attention from the 49ers, who do cover tight ends very well. But we're talking about Travis Kelce here. He's truly one of the elite players in the NFL. So I think the numbers are fairly efficient. But if it was, I'd lean over on them, but I'm staying away personally.
All right. Very, very good. And that is how you go through 11 games quickly. You don't need 10 minutes on every game. You don't need a 2-hour show. You don't need any of that. You need the early edge. Now, I do want to pay off my promise. I'm going to go around. We're each going to give our favorite pick so that our man, I think it was Dan in the chat, I apologize if I got that wrong, can put together a little 4-play parlay just for fun. So, Maestro, what play would you give him to start his parlay?
Well, I would take the Broncos plus 2.5. If you want to buy it up to 3 to feel a little more secure, that's fine too. But 2.5, great value with this very elite defense at home against Zach Wilson.
Okay. Alex, what play would you add to the 4-way parlay?
I'm going to go for an alt line. We're going to go Zach Wilson over 350 passing yards.
This is something you get.
I'm going
Is it minus 2,000 or what?
Saquon longest rush over 15.5 yards.
That was hilarious. All right, Sia, what are you adding as a third leg?
I interpreted this as against the spread play. So I'm going to go with the Titans minus 2.5.
Okay. Titans minus 2.5.
If it's against the spread, then I'm taking the Giants.
No, it doesn't have to be against the spread.
Okay.
It could be any 4 legs, because most books you can put them all together and make a parlay. So he's going to go Titans, and I think I'm going to go with buy a half a point and take the Cowboys minus the 6.5. I think that would be my play for the day. Boy, there's a lot I like. I love the over in the Falcons Bengals. I love the Cowboys. I love the Commanders today. So there's a lot you could throw in there, Dan, as a 4-way parlay. But let us know if it hits. We would love to know. All right. Very, very quickly, you see all of our best bets up on the screen. A reminder, turn on your notifications. Every single time we start a show, you will be notified so you can come in and have a good time. Hit that like button. Follow us as we continue to grow. And I will continue to tease you and tell you that our show is about to get bigger very, very soon. I just don't know the date yet, but man, are we getting close. Now, we like to end every one of our shows asking my guys exactly what's the most important thing they're looking forward to today to help you with today's games or maybe help you into the future. See ya. Start us off.
I'm looking forward to this Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers game. To Larry's point, San Francisco getting a lot of people back. My preseason pick was the San Francisco 49ers versus the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. And I think this could be a game where the 49ers really capture everybody's attention in the NFC. It's very possible that they're better than the Philadelphia Eagles already.
That's a big-time statement, but that's something I can wrap my head around. Alex, how about you, bud?
I'm interested to see if Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers can have a vintage performance. Both these guys have really struggled this season, especially if you look a little bit beyond the numbers as well. They're not performing well, according to a lot of the advanced metrics. I'm interested to see if both these guys can bounce back, have a signature performance against two underwhelming competitor teams they're playing.
Last week, by the way, first time in the history of their careers that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady both favored by at least 7 points or more, and they both lost. First time ever. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? First time ever. First time ever. Maestro, what about you?
I love Brian Daboll, and I love the attitude and everything he's done in New York and the play calling and the aggressiveness, but I want to see that end today, and I think it will end today. I think this is the spot for the Jaguars. I do believe they're a different team than last year, but they have to show up and prove it today on their home field against a team that they do match up well against. They have their offense clicking. Can the defense do enough to get them the cover?
Yeah, I love that play as well. I love that game as well. I'm very, very interested in the Giants because I like feel-good stories, and I like stories that do live up instead we say, they'll come back to earth. They'll come back to earth. I also have my focus on that Chiefs 49ers game. I think the Chiefs have shown this year at times, Colts game last week, that they get disinterested. And I just can't figure it out. But when they're focused and they play at a high level and Patrick Mahomes is not throwing it all over the place, they are as good as it gets. We'll see on the road as favorites against a very good team. How good are they really? If they lose, they'll fall to 4-3. And that's not a place you want to be with the Bills and all the other teams that are above you in the playoff race. All right, another good show. I love this show. I love all of you at home. I love my entire crew. We love doing this so much. But there's only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Sunday NFL tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, love them all. See you in the job. Prop stars, the Maestro, Jake the Snake, AB in the chat. The whole crew shows up on Sunday, and we show up for you. And we'll do it every single week till the end of time, right here on the Early Edge. Good luck.